Rydo, and we're back to another live stream recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, October 15th, and we are good to go. I do want to point out that there was a slight problem at the last stream, and frankly, my fans, people who I knew were on the live stream watching, they're too nice. They're literally too nice, and so the web peep feature had a slight problem with it where it was broken and it was just showing a blue screen this whole time, and nobody bothered to complain throughout the entire 3-hour plus live stream in the chat. So I'm gonna have to ask my chat and my fans to, hey, complain a little bit more. You deserve better than that. Like, inherently, I have two problems with OBS Studio. One, it just forgot the setting, and that's why it was messed up. And two, I only have two monitors, and both of those monitors are getting used up in this setup. One monitor for the web peak, one monitor for the for playing Hearthstone. There's really not a great way to use a monitor to do two things at the same time, because neither one of them are sized big enough for that to make sense. So if I had a third monitor, which is I guess going to be an increased priority, that will be the next step, so that I can just keep a consistent eye on what's going on. Because now, twice now in live streams while working on this web peak feature, it just hasn't worked for random silly reasons. We need a friend to spectate. Tragic Master, I think, has been hanging out in the menu for a while, or maybe he played a game while I wasn't paying attention while I was setting it up. And we need to place 30 Warlock cards and get win 3 victories with a Shaman and Warrior. The Tavern Ball is coming back the next day. And I probably had another watch a friend, or, you know, this very possibly could have been the pack from doing the dungeon bosses. Yeah, it probably was from doing the dungeon bosses. So we can open this pack, but since this is our America's account, those cards don't mean anything. They are simply going to turn into dust, which theoretically puts us now at 1600 dust. And then so it really comes down to a question of, do I really want to try and finish my collection, or do I perhaps want to save this to see if I could craft better decks according to hrstat.net. Is that the name of the website? I have totally forgotten. I haven't used it in so long. I think if I'm ever gonna get this done, I'm gonna have to get this done. So let's just go. What do we want? Whenever you play a card, summon a 2/1, play Mazroth. Let's go ahead and create this. So that leaves me down to one last legendary until we have a complete classic collection. I'm hoping some people will jump on, but in the meantime, I guess we should start with a major shaman game. Let's see, shaman would be... guess I could play Murloc right now, or we could play even shaman. I think I probably want to stick with even shaman a little bit more. More and more it seems like Steam has implemented at least some sort of throttle on games coming out during the weekend. We've seen for 2 weeks now a at least slight slowdown on games that are coming out on Fridays and Saturdays and Saturdays and Sundays. And it'd be kind of nice if they came out and admitted that that was the new system, or similar, or something like that, or that there was some reason for that. I'd be cool, certainly, if they just said, yes, this is what we're doing and this is the reason why. Alright, so I guess you have to do this, and then, generally speaking, I'm just going to play this. Job done. That'll set some things up and give me some protection before I play this next turn, which maybe not the right move anyways.
Put this apple on your head.
There we go. So let's see. Gamasutra has a article. Heck, as it is, we may just have shorter Mondays in general as far as news. I don't know how I'm gonna adjust the news to make longer Mondays when people are watching more often. I may have to just leave news over the weekend. Certainly Friday felt like I could have done something like that instead of stretching it out. That's something I'll have to consider. Oh, and I guess we could do a bit of a recap. November is not going to be no content November. I have been working relatively hard on Never Gonna Finish It November as a theme, which is a slightly better way of doing things. So now it is a combination of games that I got free and had no real interest in, and games that I paid for, whether I bought them in a bundle or something and had no interest in them, or whether I hopefully never purchased games specifically with no interest in them at all. And so I've got videos to fill in another time slot. It's still not going to be as much content as my biggest content. There is definitely a level of burnout here, and just in general I was making too much content, and I need to pull back and limit my output so that I can get further ahead in the schedule. But at the, I believe, 2:45 time slot, we'll have a variety of games coming out under the Never Gonna Finish It November theme, which are games that will be a bunch of spotlights of games. A lot of them not even barely over 10 minutes long, where I'm looking at games that just in general, let's see, let's hit that one and then kill this one.
Hey, catch!
Let's go ahead and kill this. And then go ahead and play this. Just playing too conservatively, considering I'm gonna win anyways. So yeah, the 2:45 slot will be filled. The 3:30 time slot will be continued for Boomsday puzzle solutions. One expects, unless Hearthstone comes out with another puzzle solution next year, that'll be the only time I ever do something like this. However, I now have that experience and kind of know how that would go. I would like to see my effort in making specific videos that are specific solutions to specific Boomsday puzzles pay off. There's a decent chance it won't, But my hope is that over the long period of time, people will come back and look up for some of those solutions at least. But the Hearthstone Boomsday Puzzle 3:30 time slot will continue basically until the end of the year, maybe a couple days short of January 1st. And Borderlands 2 is recorded at least, I think, through November. So what that leaves for me is now here on October 15th is I want to do start looking at the wish list and filtering that wish list down into a better, more manageable list. I thought about doing a secondary series and looking or including games I already own. I don't see a great reason to do that. Like, if I have the idea of branding it and being like it's a pile of shame list. Show off your pile of shame or some kind of grateful list, but in the end it feels too much like YouTube flexing, and really that's probably all it is. So, and I don't want to do anything like that. While it might be slightly informative, I don't think I really need to make a video for that. If somebody friends me on Steam, they can see the games I own in my library. I'm fairly certain. If somebody wants to see me cover a specific game that they see is in my library, that really doesn't require that I spend extra effort. I played the wrong. I should have played this with the coin. Yeah, I shouldn't make special videos for that. Inherently, I think the easiest, well, there is, I guess, some danger in somebody potentially buying a game for me and buying a different version of a game I already own, in the hopes that in the hopes to make me cover it, which will almost certainly succeed for 100% of the time. So yeah, checking my library is not a bad idea, just to make sure. That's in part why we want to clear up the watch list. But yeah, I don't think that there's real reason to go through all the games I own. In a lot of ways, that's just going to show off a lot of games that are definitely going to end up more in the never going to finish it category. And there was quite a slightly weird collection of games that I found that I had gotten for free, or in some other way earned or gotten those games. There was a Train Simulator 2019 game that was weird, and I don't know why in the world I would have ever gotten it. Probably got it for free. There was one called Eurofighter Tycoon or European Fighter or something like that. That was a really old game that was impenetrable, just impossible to figure out what you needed to do. You know, Train Simulator was not very understandable as far as what kind of game to play to. I really didn't run into any games that I thought I might actually play as much as I did last year. There was definitely some games I covered last year that I thought I would come back and play, and I never did, whereas this time it was much more it was 100%, yeah, I have no interest in ever coming back and playing these games. A lot of that comes down to the way I was doing my picking. I was specifically looking for games that that had bad reviews, games that looked bad. I played a couple of physics games that are barely demos, a couple of single screen Unity games. One was the 2048, which is a pretty good game, but it's just 2048. Just a simple game, simple cell phone game. There's really no reason, no way to make a series out of that. In a similar way, there was also a game that, what was the other game? There was a game called Knights from the same developer that made the game Peg, which is just a moving knight pieces around a semi checkerboard with some other problems with it to make it more of a puzzle. And Knights has just got really hard after the midpoint of the game, and in the same way that I never really finished getting all of the achievements and doing all the puzzles in Peg, I'm much more realistic now about, oh yeah, I'm never gonna get this done for Knights. There we go.
Like swatting insects! Like swatting insects!
So the idea, I'm looking at the wish list, is they're going to just be variable videos of variable length, and either I'm gonna get the outro done before that and I need to work on it, or let's see if we got anybody we can spectate. Let's see if we can watch Loki. Yeah, so either I'm gonna get the new outro done for those videos, or it's just not gonna happen. Let's see. We don't have the Hearthstone deck tracker running when we spectate. Loki Tragic Masters got on the chat and said, "Good game, insects were swatted." And so while we watch Loki play, which Loki hasn't been on the chat in a very long time,
Can I like
which is fair enough. I mean, at some point, I've said in the past, I'll have so many people who have friended me on Steam or were fans and talked in the chat once that I'll not be able to remember their names. But I kind of question whether I'd forget some of the earliest of fans, like Loki. Let's go through the news here. Gamma Sutra has an article. Facebook is testing a mobile app for watching Facebook gaming streams. We've already talked about this in general terms. This was originally a Engadget article being re-reported by Facebook. Gamma Sutra.
Welcome to
There's a recent program to help new Facebook streamers in an SDK for game devs focused entirely on building up the ability to broadcast to Facebook directly in games. I kind of wonder, maybe cell phone games could go that route in the same way that you saw a lot of cell phone games that say connect to us on Facebook. That might be the workaround to this. And I could see certainly where, even though Google made it, Google basically runs Android, the I actually don't think they did make Android. I think they just basically run it now. There really is no way to get a Google Play game and use that Google Play game to just press a button and immediately stream that to YouTube. And Twitch also really doesn't have a system like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is some new version. It's probably not going to be Android P, but I guess maybe Android Q might have some screen broadcasting, screen streaming function built directly into the operating system where you could play a game like Clash of Clans. Right now, as it is, there is an emulator for Windows that would let me, for instance, play Android games on Windows and show them off. If I wanted to, that would be a slightly cool idea, but there's too many Steam games and it breaks up my focus, certainly. And honestly, there aren't that many Google Play games to stream that are of good quality, so Facebook or any company trying to stream cell phone games,
Access denied.
in particular, to a service, is really trying to catch the kids, the people that hope that they could possibly have a career as a streamer, not anybody who wants who's already committed and already has a PC and already can do a lot better. People that already know how to use XSplit, people that already know how to use OBS are not gonna switch to streaming via Facebook mobile app. But I wouldn't be surprised if Facebook does eventually start to feel like it's flooded with little kids streaming on this service, and I bet none of them will ever make any money on it. Also though, we kind of know Facebook has already gotten in trouble for promoting games, so this is almost certainly going to be a new tab on Facebook, and most people will never click on the streaming tab or the games tab and never see it. So wouldn't be surprised if very little actually changes for most people's Facebook experience. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Disgaea 5 Complete for PC launches October 22nd. It's available at a discount price until October 29th. I was watching a video talking about how the Dragon Quest audio, at least in English for the latest Dragon Quest game, sounds really bad, that the MIDI has been sampled just poorly, and the video is blaming the composer of the audio, who is a member of the Japanese, one of the Japanese music copyright groups, and from what I've heard from independent and other sources, well, I guess other sources, maybe not independent sources, the Japanese music audio copyright group is pretty awful, and Japanese copyright laws are pretty awful, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but to ruin the MIDI samples of your game, at least in this video's opinion, seems odd for your brand new game. But they did also mention that Dragon Quest was kind of the first JRPG, so there probably is a good idea that if I am ever going to play a JRPG, it should be Dragon Quest. On the other hand, Disgaea has those interesting looking anime girls in it, so and I believe Disgaea is a slightly different style of game, because I think it's a more turn-based tactical placement game, so that it's not really what you would get from the latest Dragon Quest game. I guess I'll double check and make sure that I have this Gaia 5 on my wish list. Inherently, there is a problem with doing a series of videos that cleans up my wish list, is because that wish list will just get bigger and different. Within a few days, I'll add more things to the wish list and take things, probably won't take anything off. It's probably going to just be every December that I go through it and look at all the games, and I'm just going to talk about them and consider them again. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article, why Paradox is bringing visual editing tools to its next engine update. Quote, we want to put as much power as we can into the hands of the people who are making content. They shouldn't have to ask a coder for help. Speaking of adding an editor, it turns out that there is now in the new YouTube beta a video editor and end screens, but they've just put it in such a weird way that nobody can find it. Clearly, you have to click on the video, and then the navigation bar on the left changes and adds features that weren't there before until you'd selected that specific video. So theoretically, maybe next time I look at YouTube beta, it'll be good enough for me to use. Although at this point I might as well just wait until they force everybody into it. Okay. So I'm not sure what Paradox's engine is called. Clausewitz engine. C-L-A-U-S-E-W-I-T-Z is the name of the engine. It's not a terrible thought to have a few visual editing tools in there. I could certainly see it being a little bit silly to wait what could be 5 minutes to 20 minutes to launch, say, Adobe Photoshop on a slower and older computer just to make a small edit. There's probably a small collection of things you could do pretty simply. This feels like this is a Shutterwalk deck. No, I mean an Inzoth the Corruptor deck that Loki's playing. So things like cropping, certainly, cutting and pasting, I could see. Doing little pixel edits makes sense. Drawing lines, but I imagine what you do in the visual editing as a programmer using the programming engine is just little tweaks compared to a workflow where you would have a artist still working in Photoshop. And often what they do on bigger games is you'll just have placeholder images, and you won't, as a programmer, not even see what the graphics look like until late into the production. And you could have like rough drafts of images that replace the placeholder images that still may not be the final product.
You want it? I got it.
But yeah, I could totally see how that would be helpful in Unreal and Unity too. It would also help, certainly, for small indie companies to not have to license, I believe it's $500 software for Adobe Photoshop if you don't really need it or don't really know how to use it. It would also help things like Unreal and Unity potentially take money away from Adobe and move the industry away from using Photoshop, which Photoshop has been an industry standard for probably as long as the Apple II and Photoshop 1 came out. And getting away from it is not a terrible idea. Frankly, most people could do what most people do could be done with the basic Microsoft photo editing software that's just by default installed until you realize that there are more things you can do or more things you want to do. Actually, you don't even really need a Windows operating system at all. Most photos you take directly, you can edit on your phone easily enough to get a decent quality work. There's also, I believe, Paint.net is a open source free version of a Photoshop software. There's also Blender if you want to do 3D animation. That takes a lot of education though. But I believe there's also some online services that will do you just fine too. Actually, one of the people that I follow on Twitter retweeted a person who was giving away some no attribution needed landscape photos that you could use for referencing for making games, or I guess just doing anything. And it was a good chunk of gigabytes, probably I would say 50-60 gigabytes of just here's some landscape photos that even if you're not gonna make a game or reference it or do something else with it, you could simply just use it as pretty landscape photos. So I decided to download that and fill up my hard drive. The good news is my hard drive that I download to is my slow 5 or 4 terabyte hard drive and not my 512 megabyte or gigabyte SSD. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to zoom in because here we'll get the web peak going on this game. As it is, this is probably too small for people to see. So let's go back to where I like to leave it, which is 175. Which changes how the game looks, how the Steam pages look by a lot. Let's see. By the way, when I click this, do people see the menu when I click this? Probably. Okay, so we have a game on Steam. This may be a short stream at this rate. Loki is... I don't know if he's toying with the people or if he's just kind of struggling. We have a game called A Winter's Daydream, which is a visual novel with some anime characters. Apparently, his elderly grandmother is transferred into a cute young girl. Hijinks ensue. Now, to be fair, in Japanese stories in which they go with the potential incest angle, which happens honestly as much as it does on like porn in the Western world, it's just that generally speaking people don't mention how much incest fetish there exists in the Western world. Then people in the West are just not as open about it. This really is not how it usually goes, though. It's not usually a grandmother. There's a decent amount of mother. And this is, I guess, probably the first time I've seen this fetish as an idea even touched upon in video games. The animation style looks pretty good, and you always want to applaud the ability of any animator to draw older and less attractive people. It's real easy to fall into the realm of drawing young people, but getting them older is a problem. You almost wonder if this is probably going to be like a time travel mystery and he's going to end up being his own grandfather or something like that. This is English only, so this might not actually be a Japanese focused thing, and this might be a troll game. It's 10% off for $5.39. One of the terrible games I played was $5.99. I believe it was Turbo Pug DX, but that really was not anywhere as bad as Train Simulator 2019, because Train Simulator 2019 has about $8,000 in DLC, and I'm not exaggerating. Go look at it on Steam. There's, if you click all DLC and scroll down to the bottom, it will say roughly $8,000 if you were to add it all to the cart. Okay, so this developer, let's see, Laney has very positive reviews of 361. AI Idol has only 4 reviews. 6 Days of Snow has very positive reviews. Did he lose? Watch a friend in win and spectate mode. Seriously? Let's see if maybe Tragic Master will jump into a game and we'll watch him. Blackberry Honey is very positive. Lily of the Valley is positive. Like, all of these look like they are real efforts on the visual novel element. We've got another page. Tragic Master invites me to spectate him. Thank you, Tragic. Let's see. I'm playing one turn kill druid.
The light shall bring victory.
I must protect
Let's
the
see.
wild.
Sad Story of Emily Burns, very positive. Sweet Vinegar. Strawberry Vinegar, very positive. Asphyxia, very positive. There you go. So yeah, this developer
My greetings.
makes good visual novels. Now, I am gonna have to very much debate about whether I want to put visual novels in my wish list. And I think the fact that it doesn't have full audio kills it, unfortunately. Well, the fact that it's your grandmother turned into a cute anime girl probably sells it more as being more unique, to be fair. Like, in the same way that Hatofo Boyfriend was at least a slightly more interesting game to show off, and there was a lot more coverage for Hatofo Boyfriend, the pigeon dating simulator visual novel, than there were for thousands upon thousands of other better written, better made visual novel games. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Dark Romance, the Swan Sonata Collector's Edition. Anything that ends in Collector's Edition, you can pretty much guess is coming from Big Fish Games. And it is your standard hidden object game where you get one little animation, trailer, and maybe an animation at the beginning of the game. And then you just have a random collection of puzzles. Fairly certain that these hidden objects and these puzzles do get recycled. They probably cut and paste them pretty well, considering Big Fish Games releases a new game every couple of weeks. That being said, it is also worth remembering that Big Fish Games had to lay off a lot of people recently too, so this selling collector's editions for $12.99 is not really paying the bills.
Warriors of the frozen wastes, rise.
Let's see, next game we have on Steam is called Sakura MMO. It's a visual novel anime game from the makers of the Sakura series, where they, generally speaking, just have the same characters used in many games. It's not a terrible thought. If anything, I think that there is a interesting concept there that is similar to the Smash Brothers concept, where you could just have something that you've already paid an animator to animate continue to draw the same characters over and over again, or reuse the characters. This really, I don't think, is an MMO though. It's a single player game, so it's just a visual novel set in an MMO world, which is confusing, certainly. Sakura Clicker being the one Sakura game that I really played, and there's several more. It's in English and simplified Chinese, but not Japanese. 25% off for $7.49. Probably not worth owning any of the Sakura games, honestly. Let's see, the last one I think that came out was Sakura Dungeon, which is 91% positive, so people know what they're getting. Maybe Sakura Sadist came out after that. 83%. Sakura Swim Club, Sakura Gamer. It's just the same thing. Remember, Sakura in Japanese just means cherry blossoms. So it's just using that as a phrase. When I did play Sakura Clicker, which is 84% positive of 14,047 reviews, I did say that this probably was the one clicker game that I would want to play more than anything else. Truth of the matter though, over the years, Time Clickers was the one clicker I stayed with because it was just more automated and easier to launch the game, easier to run the game in the background. And even though Sakura Clicker is free, I'm fairly certain that there are some DLC elements you can see here. 99 cents each, but if you were to buy all the different outfits, I think you'd probably be in the $30 or $40 range for it. So there is the watch and learn, which means I can now get back to focusing on actually playing the game myself. So thank you, Tragic Maxter, for that. Another local, a classic pack. If we got incredibly lucky, this could be our last legendary, and we'd have a full complete set. Let's see. Tragic Master said on the chat, smiley face, good luck with the cards in the pack, golden legendary for sure, golden lore walker Cho incoming. Tragic Master is putting all his hope into one very specific card. Well, it's not a legendary, certainly, but it could be a golden. I'm very worried that with the Halloween event, which is going to happen in a couple of weeks, we will have a new expansion. Things feel a little bit different on how Hearthstone is being run now that Ben Brode is just no longer in charge, and he's moved on to his own company, Second Dinner. And I wouldn't be surprised if a new expansion came out a lot faster and more tweaks happen more often. We know some game changes are going to happen in the next couple of weeks with cards. I think they're just going to be more active and fiddly with it. And I'm not sure I really trust Blizzard to do that right, because look at what they did with World of Warcraft. It seems like people really are not happy with the tweaks that they made with their different systems and different weapons in there, and I only from other people's tells can understand World of Warcraft. I've never played it myself, but I'm certainly hearing that people are not happy with it. And then your best hope is that they would leave it a little bit alone, like they for the most part do with StarCraft. But this is a more living game, and what I've heard is the beta for Magic the Gathering is a lot better. So if it comes out of beta, or maybe I should be in the beta right now for Magic the Gathering Arena, like we might see a transition away, and I'm gonna have to certainly consider that. Although I'm unlikely to honestly choose to switch. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I really don't want to play Magic the Gathering instead of Hearthstone. It seems like it would be a slower, more complicated game. Let's see. Tragic Master said, "Did you see the change to 3 cards incoming? Giggling Inventor to 7 mana, Mana Worm to 2 mana plus Aviana to 10 mana." In all honesty, Tragic, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at games and doing the web peek, so I'll trust that you did it, certainly, but generally, in all fairness, when I'm just spectating, I'm not really paying attention there, if there's news to talk about. Which is probably a pretty common case for a lot of people. When I'm not streaming, I cheese Hearthstone a lot more than I do when I'm streaming. I will very often just start a game and then watch something on my phone and just hope that the other player will get bored and concede. And if I have a watch and learn, I generally don't actually watch, and I generally, even if I was going to watch, I don't think I'd really learn anything. So yeah, Hearthstone really isn't succeeding in their goals a lot of times with some of these daily quests. Tragic Master says Nerfhammer has been swung.
Well fought. I concede.
See, I've got a win streak going on right now, so I don't want to break the win streak. So I'm going to stick with this and see if we can get up to rank 19, maybe 18. Next game we have on Steam is called AI War 2. This looks like a strategy RTS. Looks like one of these space RTSs that generally they look alright, but then the interfaces leave something to be desired, and this interface in particular leaves something to be desired. And they just don't look like the kind of games I'd want to play. Some of this art style kind of looks cool. For the different ships, it kind of looks cool from a distance. But I don't have a lot of faith in this. It's an early access game. It's 10% off for $17.99. And since we have some extra time, let's see if this developer has developed anything else that might testify to their quality. One of the games I played in the past couple days was such a bad game that I literally was motivated to remove a different game from that same publisher and developer because the level of quality was just that bad. Which is how it's supposed to happen, certainly. That is the idea, is to, if you see a developer and they have if they have published really bad games before, why would you trust them with their next game? I mean, generally speaking, it gets a lot. They get a lot better throughout time, or you would hope that they get get better throughout time in releasing newer games, but if you start at such rock bottom, that does not inspire confidence. We have a GameIndustry.biz article. The Call of Duty endowment reaches 50,000 veteran employment placement goal early. It partnerships with organizations in the US, UK, resulting in 50,000 veterans finding meaningful employment ahead of its 2019 goal. How? Like, there's some questions certainly from that to ask. Like, in the United States, and I imagine it's similar in the UK, you are heavily motivated to hire veterans. There is only one particular reason why you wouldn't want to hire a veteran, and that's if you're afraid that they're going to be recalled or sent out back on active duty, or they're going to have to maintain some readiness by training or something like that. So you may have to give them a few more days off, and if they get recalled and sent to active duty, you're going to lose them for probably a lot more time. But otherwise, it is such a win-win scenario that it's kind of ridiculous that you wouldn't want to hire a veteran.
Chill out. Chill out.
So the Call of Duty endowment, I'm not sure what they really are doing. They're saying they reached their goal of supporting and funding the placement of 50,000 US and UK veterans, and you can certainly get into a lot of issues in this, certainly of why do we in the United States and UK have so many veterans? Why was that so easy? There goes a victory. There's not a real problem right now in the United States with getting a job. There's a real problem in the United States about getting a job that is consistent and secure and pays well. Wealth inequality is still a major issue. But if you're willing or desperate enough to work, most people can find a job. Tragic Master said, "Good game, thank you." I'm trying to read the rest of this article and see what this is. So they got veterans jobs at Amazon, Apple, Bank of America, Delta, IBM, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Nike, and SpaceX. Okay. Amazon was until recently paying close to minimum wage. Like, they just recently went up to $15 an hour. Apple could be hiring employees to run Apple stores, or it could be hiring people to work in their corporate offices. So who knows where those job placements are. Bank of America is one of the worst banks in the United States. That it led to the last housing bubble, and it was a pretty bad bank. Deloitte, D-E-L-O-I-T-T-E, I've never heard of. Delta, I believe, is one of the worst airlines in the United States, but that's not saying much because they all kind of suck. IBM, you could be doing tech support for IBM in some small facility, or you could be working in a corporate office, so who knows there. Lockheed Martin already has a major reason why they pretty much only want to hire veterans, in the fact that most of their government contracts to make fighter planes requires some form of clearance, and only veterans are likely to have that. Microsoft, same thing there. In fact, IBM might be the same thing too. If you have even just the lowest form of clearance, just like I guess that'd be classified clearance, you are super valuable for IBM, Microsoft, and Lockheed Martin. Nike, I have no idea like how many jobs are even in Nike in the UK and US. Like, what are you really doing at that job? And then SpaceX again gets right back to the clearance issue. So it's real easy to accomplish your goal when these are people that almost certainly would have been hired anyways.
Stormy, stormy.
There's a quote here saying placing 50,000 veterans in a meaningful jobs is significant, assuming they are meaningful jobs. That's kind of an assumption that I'm not 100% willing to make an assumption there. I'm going to try to play this, and then I'm going to try this.
For Argus.
Kill that. That's the equivalent of more than half of the U.S. Army's annual recruit class. Of course, that would just be the U.S. Army, not any of the other branches of the United States military. But I would assume the Army is probably the highest recruit class compared to the Navy or the Air Force. Although maybe not. Maybe the Navy does recruit more people. I'm not certain about that. The next quote here is, our approach is to marry common sense business practices with philanthropy, which enables us to place bets in U.S. jobs at about 1/6 the cost of placement of the U.S. Department of Labor's efforts. No doubt the government is wasteful. We are proud and share this achievement with all of our grantees who have worked tirelessly towards our shared goal. So this is again one of those stories where you have EA, I believe, the developer of well, no, it's Activision Blizzard, the developer of Call of Duty, trying to look like they are a good moral human being when really they are a soulless corporate entity, as much as any other company is a soulless corporate entity. And I imagine this gets them some kind of good press or tax write-off. Clearly this is not Activision Blizzard hiring 50,000 people, it's passing the buck, and it is almost certainly done to hide the fact that in Call of Duty there's either some microtransactions or an increase in price or some other controversy, which they don't really want to address. Let's see. Tragic Masters said our minimum wage just went to $15 an hour. Yes, there's a heavy push in the United States for a minimum wage to go to $15 an hour. In the end, it's really a drop in the bucket for economic things that need to be fixed. Like, even if minimum wage was forced up to $25 an hour, it really doesn't cover a lot of the problems with the US economy as far as how easy it is to overpay the 1% and how easy it is for the 1% to not pay any taxes at all, and for them to use their ill-gotten gains to manipulate and control the political system. So a small increase in pay still is a problem. I mean, it's not solving all the problems overnight. Inherently, the only thing I think that fixes the United States economy, and this is the thing that will eventually have to fix all economies, is governments are going to have to realize that they are already, if not in danger of, they are already under the thumb and under the control of corporations, and they need to get out from under the thumb of the corporations. And the best way they can do that is by instituting a universal basic income, potentially getting downgraded by the financial markets as retribution, and just living with that downgrade, so that corporations no longer have the power to potentially fire a lot of people and cause a lot of conflict, or there's no longer a reason for senators or congressmen to actually listen to corporations, because once people have basic income, somebody like me, and this is something we really haven't seen so far, we've seen just the beginnings of it, somebody like me, if I were political, could go on YouTube and stump for a political candidate, let's say Bernie Sanders, just to pick someone at random, and I could put in a lot of work and a lot of effort for free and probably get more votes for Bernie than the millions of dollars that Coca-Cola or the Koch brothers are spending to get their selected representatives elected, because all the big corporations do to fund and help people get elected are buying ads, which people don't watch, putting those ads on TV, which people don't watch, and just in general lobbying. And as people more and more are learning, hey, I'm not going to listen to these ads, I'm not going to listen to lobbyists, there could be, with universal basic income, this is an economic thought, a shift in focus from politicians only caring about people that can donate $1 million to their campaign to caring about just the average Joe on the side of the street, getting them talking to people and getting them more votes that way. And it would be a long process, and a little bit of this, what I'm saying, is pie in the sky, certainly, but that's where they have to go, is that we have to kind of cut corporations via universal basic income out of this equation completely, because hey, Sears went bankrupt just yesterday or just today. Corporations are all gonna fall, and then they're either going to try to take over the governments directly instead of hiding in the shadows, or they're all going to collapse, and then the politicians are going to be left with nobody to fund their campaigns, and to prevent that from happening, we're going to have a bunch more bailouts. It's been an hour. Let's see. Let's continue here. Tragic Master said Fed Reserve just increases interest rates no matter what, so no one wins while the dollar is in control of central banks. Yeah, that is something I'm not 100% educated on, but I do know that the Federal Reserve is this semi-government agency that's not really a government agency, and it really does get into the point of when I say the corporations, the banks are a big part of that, and they are kind of influencing quite a bit, and that's why countries in general are going to have to just implement a universal basic income and tell the Federal Reserve in the United States and other banks to just say, fine, downgrade our credit. What do we care? Well, it'll be a little bit more expensive to ship iPhones out of China. So what? I think the United States in particular right now would be perfectly capable of feeding and clothing itself under universal basic income, and it would just be gadgets and secondary things that you want. Like, we've got more than enough land to grow our own food. It just wouldn't be the food we wanted. So it would be a small depression, not a great depression. But somebody is going to have to take the heat for that. Anyways, that's going to be it for this conversation and this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game, or you can support me via Patreon. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.